Now for something that looks a little complicated, but it's not too bad. The general rule. Now in this section you'll be given a pattern made up of matches or other items. Your task is to count the number of matches and work out a general rule for calculating the number of matches in each item or shape. In other words, you might be asked to calculate the number of matches in the 100th shape or the 1000th shape. To do that, you need something called the general rule. Now here's an example you might have seen before. So in the first one, if you count the matches, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then we add 1, 2, 3, 4, so another 4 onto that's 9, and we add another 4, so we just keep increasing in 4s. Now let's look at this pattern a little more closely. Firstly, the n value for each item will be according to the number of the item, so n equals 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then if we look at the first one, it's made up of 4 little matches there, plus 1 on the side. So I could write that as 4 times 1 plus 1, which is 5. If we look at the next one, there are now 2 groups of 4 added to that 1 on the side. In other words, it's 4 times 2 plus the 1. And you can imagine what will happen in the third one. There are 3 groups of 4 plus that little 1. So it'll be 4 times 3 plus 1. And then it's going to be, well, it'll have to be 4 times 4 plus 1. So our general rule could look something like this. M for matches, you could use T if you like, but we'll go for M. Capital M equals 4 times n plus 1. 4 is the number of matches you add each time, so that's your common difference. N is your pattern number, or your item number, and 1 is that little match that you have to add each time, so the thing that was left over. In algebra, we would more than likely write it like that. M equals 4n plus 1 without the times sign. So to find your general rule, just look for the common difference and what is left over. In this example, the common difference was 4. See, 4 matches were added each time. And that little thing that was left over was the 1. To show that the general rule is correct, what we do is we check that m works out to be the correct number of matches for each value of n. So when n is 1, we would say 4 times 1 plus 1, that's 4 plus 1, which equals 5, which is correct. For the second one, we must get a value of 9. 4 times 2 is 8 plus 1 is 9. For the third one, we should get 13. 4 times 3, that's 12, plus 1 is 13. For the fourth one, we should get 17. 4 times 4 is 16, plus 1 is 17. And the last one, 4 times 5 plus 1 is 21. So in each case, it worked out to the correct value. So we have shown that the general rule is correct. If we have to find the general rule from a series of numbers, the first thing we do is we find the common difference. And hopefully you can see that each time you're adding 5. 8 plus 5 is 13, plus 5 is 18, etc. So in our equation, we're going to have m equals 5n plus something. Now what is that something? All we have to do is look at the first term to find out what is left over. And we know that m equals 5n plus 1, so 8 equals 5 times 1, n is 1 in this case, plus something. Well, what is that something? That something is 3. So now we know that that question mark is 3. So let's check if that's actually correct. So put the equation there and check if it's correct for each value of n. n equals 1, we're expecting the answer 8. 5 times 1 plus 3 is 8. For n equals 2, we're expecting 13. 5 times 2 is 10 plus 3 is 13. So the general rule is correct. Now we don't need a table to work out the general rule. Numbers are fine as long as there's a common difference, and you can see in this case each time you're adding 6. To find the common difference, just subtract. So we know straight away that the general term is going to be t equals 6n plus something. And hopefully you know by now that to find that something, just look at the first term. So the first term, when n is 1, The term is 11, and we know that 11 is going to be 6n plus something. Now n has a value of 1, so 11 equals 6 times 1 plus question mark. And that question mark has to be 5, because 6 plus 5 is 11. So we can replace that question mark with 5, and our general term is t equals 6n plus 5. Now you might want to go through that video again. Make sure you can get the general term quickly by looking at the common difference and what is left over, and then go online and look for the general rule checkpoint.